when it comes to the stuff about nature welcoming me and all that, and animals, the first example that I always think of is the time that I was at the zoo, and I think it was in San Antonio, and I actually, at that time they had an area where there was sort of like a petting zoo, but it was more than just a deal where now they have a thing where there's sort of this area where there's a few animals and stuff and you can go up and pet them and stuff, but it was a little bit more like there was actually an animal environment you could go into. And for these goats, they had like these rocks that came up off the ground and the goats were on, and you could climb up on there too. You know, they let kids do that, and I actually fell asleep hanging out with the goats, and you know, my mom always talked about that too, and enjoying it, you know, seeing me like that when she came back to get me, that, you know, I had just basically absorbed myself into the goats environment. But it was so easy for me to do that, because again, it was like, it just felt so natural. You know, I feel like I'm kind of not really adding any new information when I'm like, this thing I read to you, it's true, really, it is, you know, but it's just that I hadn't heard anybody talk about it before I read that, and you know, just sort of capture that so well. It doesn't mean that I love all animals. Some animals I don't really like particularly, and some people actually think I'm weird because I don't really like dogs very much. The thing is, I do like some dogs. It's just the ones that tend to be popular, I don't, because I don't like dogs that are like always barking and jumping on people and stuff like that. Like, I'm not down with those dogs. I'm like, you know, hey, appreciate you wanting to say hi to me and all, but you know, calm down. And I guess, you know, overall, as far as the domesticated animals, that's why I've liked cats better than dogs, because, like, it's like you can show affection to a cat, and the cat can show affection to you, but then they move on, and they do something else. And, you know, the doorbell rings, cats don't go running to the door meowing at people, you know? It's like, you just don't see that. Whereas dogs will go bark, and it's like, what are you doing that for, you know? What are you doing? So anyway, that's my little bit on dogs. But when I was a kid, I had so many books I read about animals, both fictional and non-fictional. You know, we had the Burgess animal books that were, you know, told stories while trying to be educational about animals. Some of them, I think there were some that were just plain stories, but there was some that they actually sort of tried to talk about different species of animals and things like that, and then, you know, non-fictional books that just listed had pictures and listed animals and had facts about them and stuff like that. And I loved learning about you know, the different kinds of a certain animal, like, you know, this type of chipmunk lives in this part of the U.S. and this one lives here, and the different colors and variations and all that was always just cool to me. And yeah, most of my childhood, like, you know, I would want to be an animal. You know, I would be like, I'd rather be a kangaroo rat or a desert fox or something, you know, than a human being, because human beings suck, you know. It's pretty much my attitude, except for the babies and the little kids. But the older you got, the more you're just a annoying waste of space who just adheres to all these stupid things that society forces upon you. Yeah, this is where I get into being like the, you know, don't do what the man tells you to do. Reconnect with nature, man. Probably sound my most like hippie-like when it comes to these type of subjects, because that really is like my instinct. And I've gotten old enough where I'm pretty comfortable in the life I lead that is very much a human life in terms of the activities I do, including, right here sitting in front of a computer, it's obviously not something chipmunks do, at least not when they're on camera. But the thing is, that is sort of my natural instinct, but my kind of experience of life and my cynicism, has grown, and so I don't ever not advocate, that's not the right word, but I don't tell people, well, there's something wrong with technology, or there's something wrong with, living a life that only a human can live, because it's just reality and it's what you do. But I also think it's kind of cool that there are people that, will go and spend extended time in nature and experiencing things just sort of purely for how they are. And I don't do that much anymore, although very occasionally I will. But and that's kind of I don't have a problem with that. The fact that I don't really do a whole lot of connecting with nature, so to speak, anymore, doesn't really bother me that much. I can still appreciate it, and I can still say, well, if opportunity rises for a particular thing, and that's what I feel like I'm going to enjoy, then I'll do it, and then it'll be cool, because that instinct doesn't ever go away. It's just a matter of there's other activities I enjoy that I just choose to spend my time on and do those things instead, rather than just going out in the wilderness somewhere. So, but the connection to animals and nature will always be there, I'm sure, and it's always been, when it comes to science, that's always been the area of science that interests me the most. I would occasionally have interest in other things, like weather, is something that I've had certain fascinations with. Astronomy, definitely, things about planets and space, I've had an interest in. But really, when it comes to scientific stuff, the life sciences and, animals and nature and that sort of thing has always been the area that I had the most interest in when it came to that stuff. And that's sometimes extended towards sort of the environmental kind of attitude, but not always. And I've never been a fanatic when it came to things we got to save the planet because it's dying and all this stuff. I guess I sort of had spurts where I kind of had feelings in that direction, but I think most of the time I sort of had an attitude of, part of the reason I like nature is that it's tough, and humans are actually kind of arrogant when they believe that they have so much power one way or the other over nature. I think, nature goes on no matter what we do before and after us, and we're just kind of a speck of dust in the wheel of time, or whatever you want to call it. So something, and other emphatic declarations that are cool and profound.